Well, today, a federal judge said that it is likely that Donald Trump committed crimes in his illegal attempt to block the recording of the electoral votes in Congress on January 6th. Judge David Carter, who was appointed by President Clinton, ordered Attorney John Eastman to turn over his emails to the January 6th committee. Judge Carter wrote, if, quote, Eastman and President Trump's plan had worked, it would have permanently ended the peaceful transition of power undermining American democracy and the Constitution. If the country does not commit to investigating and pursuing accountability for those responsible, the court fears January 6th will repeat itself. That line obviously being directed at Attorney General Merrick Garland. In evaluating the evidence of the case, Judge Carter wrote, based on the evidence, the court finds it more likely than not that President Trump corruptly attempted to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021. The illegality of the plan was obvious. Our nation was founded on the peaceful transition of power, epitomized by George Washington laying down his sword to make way for democratic elections. Ignoring this history, President Trump vigorously campaigned for the vice president to single-handedly determine the results of the 2020 election. The January 6th committee is considering requesting the testimony of Virginia Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. The committee is in possession of electronic messages exchanged between Ginny Thomas and the last Trump White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, in which Mrs. Thomas urged Mark Meadows to do anything possible to overthrow the results of the election, including, as she said in this text, there are no rules in war. That means that Mrs. Thomas appears to be more than willing to have committed crimes and violated the law in her pursuit of overturning the election. It is possible that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas committed a crime by participating in a Supreme Court decision that forced all of Mark Meadows' communications to be turned over to the January 6th committee. Not only did Clarence Thomas participate in that decision, which was in and of itself a possible crime, he was the only Supreme Court justice who voted to prevent Mark Meadows' communications from being turned over to the committee. In other words, Clarence Thomas voted to prevent his wife's communications to be turned over to the committee. That is apparently a vividly clear violation of federal law, which prohibits Supreme Court justices from participating in cases in which their spouses, quote, have an interest that could be substantially affected by the outcome of the proceeding. Today, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee said this.
It raises a serious question about conflict of interest for Justice Thomas. I mean, to think that he would consider a case where his wife is frequently contacting the chief of staff of the president and giving advice on matters that are going to be ultimately litigated by the court, that is the ultimate conflict of interest. For the good of the court, I think he should recuse himself from those cases.
Just over an hour ago, the January 6th committee voted to approve referrals of criminal contempt against Trump campaign operative Dan Scavino and Trump White House staffer Peter Navarro. They are both illegally refusing to comply with subpoenas issued by the committee. The most damning evidence of criminal contempt against Peter Navarro that the committee presented tonight was video of Ari Melber's MSNBC interview with Peter Navarro, which federal prosecutors will now be studying.
I'd like to play a video media clip right now. Can you please cue the clip?
What about this interview, which is kind of interesting, is like I have so much knowledge to share with you about what I was involved in and what I know.
Given that you've told me that you have a plan that you push to delay or deal with the certification, you've told me 100 members back it, and you've said in public Trump was on board. If you say all those things out here, why risk a legal battle or going to jail to refuse to discuss them with the committee under oath?
because I have a loyalty to the Constitution and a loyalty to the president. The president has invoked executive privilege in this matter. It's not my authority to revoke that privilege.
You say it's not your privilege to waive, but let's look
That's the law. No,
how
it's
often
the
you've
law.
waived it. Let's look at some of the news you've made on these topics. Take a look.
Former Trump advisor Peter Navarro is spilling the beans.
We had over 100 congressmen and senators on Capitol Hill ready to implement the sweep.
Peter Navarro.
Right? The boss tells Pence to take my friggin' call.
Navarro tells Rolling Stone.
It was about sending the votes back. Most or all of those states would decertify the election.
How do you expect people to take seriously your claim that this is secret and privileged when you've been out there talking about it? And when you and Bannon said the committee's dog wouldn't bark, they were afraid of you and the report, it seems now, Peter, like the dog has barked.